In this episode, hey guys, Bill here from Nostalgic Inclination, the channel dedicated to you, all creatives, artists, musicians, and otherwise. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you're returning, great to have you again. Today our challenge theme is Egypt, and we're going to be creating a cartoon animation cell artwork and music in the theme of Egypt. So let's take a virtual trip and get straight to it. The frame you see here is poured resin. I made a big batch of these in the warmer season last summer. We will get into resin pouring in a future video. I'm starting out with the pyramid. Simple enough, but they can be a little difficult to get the proportions right if you don't know the trick. And the trick is simply just draw the two outside lines before adding the middle line, and everything should go much smoother. Like usual, I'm keeping things simple. This sketch is comprised of a grand total of 6 lines, discounting the bisect in the horizon. Okay, so with the watercolor, we want to wet the back and then the front of the paper thoroughly, but not oversaturated to where you're going to blow out the paper. Also, I do my best to try to avoid the pencil lines with the water because it will smudge. I'm using my favorite cake style watercolors, the inexpensive Master's Touch set. Here I'm painting a bright blue sky for the Sahara Desert, cloudless and gradiating down to the horizon as usual. When I was about 13, I went on a vacation with my family to Niagara Falls. And we went to the Canadian side of the falls, and there was a museum, a for-profit museum, and it was kind of a 2-floor, smaller, stuffed animal, oddity, gimmicky sideshow type of place. It was right up my alley. On the second floor, they had an Egyptian section, and they had a few mummies, and one of them was just magnetizing to me. I couldn't stop staring at it. In fact, my parents had to pull me away so that we could move on. It had a very distinctive hook nose with a bump in it and very preserved saucer-like ears, and its arms were crossed over its chest. I'll never forget my encounter with it. Fast forward a few years and a documentary on television comes up, and they're talking about how King Ramses I has been located at a small Niagara Falls museum. Well, lo and behold, they showed a picture and it was the mummy that I was captivated by. I'm happy to tell you that it has since been returned to its proper home in Egypt, but I will never forget my encounter with the king. Here I'm adding a couple palm trees in the distance to give perspective to the size of the pyramid. Rounding out the background details, I shade one side of the pyramid with a brown colored pencil, and I shade the front face of it with a white colored pencil, just to give some small illusion of light. After you get your background the way that you want it, tape it in place, and we're going to tape on a piece of animation paper which is semi-transparent, and we are going to begin our master drawing. Again, we're going to keep things very simple. Using my frame, we're going to mark out our perimeter, and then we're going to make another perimeter, a box within the box of where we're going to draw the camel. We want the pyramid visible when the camel goes over it. Like with all sketches, remember to keep things loose, use your eraser, and nothing is final until you do the inking. I'm drawing the camel with its head turned back. If I were to just draw it looking straight ahead, there would be no movement, no life, but by turning the head back, it kind of gives the illusion of motion. In an animated cartoon, it would take 24 of these frames to make 1 second's worth of animation. We're only doing one frame, so we must tell the whole story within one cell. The earliest known camels come from North America, dating back 45 to 50 million years ago. The species is called Protylopus, and they were no bigger than a rabbit. Their fossils have been found in modern-day South Dakota. As far as Egypt is concerned, the one-humped dromedary camel can be traced back to 3000 BC. By taping the animation cell, we are registering the frame, preventing movement and keeping everything aligned. I'm using Black Star India ink by Dr. Phil Martin High Carb. I have tried many inks and I haven't found any better than this for this particular application. When inking, take your time, but be fluid, and if you have to lift up the pen, lift up where the line breaks or changes direction. Do not lift up when you're drawing a straight line, or else it will be very noticeable. If you're looking to try your hand for the first time at the lost art form of Animation Cel style art, this is the perfect project for you. After the ink dries, you want to flip your Animation Cel over, and you're going to paint on the reverse of the Animation Cel. I use the protective sheet in between that and the surface to prevent scratches and smudges and marks. This piece only requires one color. The paint and the cel come from chromacolor.com, straight from the UK. You can find animation cels from other places here and there, but quite often they're not thick enough and they'll curl when you put the paint on them. This cel is 5 microns thick and it stays flat as a pancake when the paint dries. Because I shook the paint, there is bubbles. Just poke them out with some toothpicks and you're good to go. With Animation Cel, we can paint over the interior lines because they will still show up on front when flipped over. I am using the floating brush method, where the brush does not touch the cel. It basically just touches the paint and mops it around, kinda like swabbing the deck. Paint right up to the edge, and don't be worried about getting the paint over the line. If that were to happen, just wait for it to dry, take a flat toothpick, and you can lightly scrape it off, and you're good to go. I would like to once again mention the overwhelming support I've gotten from all of you. I am very grateful. My intention is to help people who are on the edge that just need a little motivation or inspiration to start creating themselves. For me, there's no greater joy or fulfillment than making something. With the Cel Paint, I like to let it rest for a minimum of 8 hours and preferably overnight before flipping it over and assembling everything. You don't want to do this too early. You'll ruin both the background and the cel. I will assemble the cel background and frame after the music project. Please stay tuned for the final reveal. To achieve that Arabic style of music, we're going to be using an F minor harmonic scale. We are going to be toggling between the 5th mode and the 4th mode of the F minor harmonic scale. The 5th mode of the F minor harmonic scale is the C Phrygian dominant. Which is the same notes as the F minor harmonic scale, just moving the root to the C. For the 4th mode of the F minor harmonic scale, we're going to be using the B flat Dorian augmented 4th, which again is the same notes as the F minor harmonic scale, just moving the root to the B flat. I'm working in Logic Pro X, and I'm going to use all stock plug-in instruments if you'd like to follow along. I am using the multi-sample sampler, and the first instrument is called the Eastern Solo. Somebody asked me a few videos back what the clicking noise was. That's simply a click track, a metronome to keep me in time. You do not hear it in the final recording. Ancient Egypt truly was the melting pot, kind of like New York today. Located in North Africa, there were many Middle Eastern and Greek influences to go along with the African culture. This enables me to use a wide array of world instruments from different locations. I apologize for the jumble of chords in this shot. I could make a horror movie, Attack of the Killer Chords. The reason I don't strap them down is because I'm always rewiring them in between projects. Not only are we modulating between the two modes, but we're modulating between 2 octaves. This Eastern solo patch almost sounds like 2 different instruments between the octaves. I have set my keys to monophonic input to make the trills more pronounced. Now we're going to do something a little daring, almost a rule break. We're going to add some synthesizer. Not only are we fusing cultures with this music, but now we're going to fuse eras. Being completely transparent, I composed this piece of music several years back, and I was unaware of the musical theory to go along with it. So don't think that you need to be studied in theory to create music. You just know if it sounds right. There is a proper Egyptian scale, but this isn't even it. In my opinion, this Arabic scale sounds even more Egyptian to me than the Egyptian scale. Of course, I am just a Westerner from the outside looking in. It is always nice to embrace tradition, but it is not required. The main goal is to evoke emotional reaction. While we're here, I would like to ask you guys to feel free to leave in the comments ideas for more challenge themes. I have several in my head, but I'd like to include your ideas as well. Now we're going to go to the furthest point in Africa away from Egypt, and we're going to go to the South African voice effects. Again, we're breaking the rules, but they fit quite nicely. And no, I don't think they're really saying quinoa, but it sounds like it. Now I'm adding percussion, an African drum kit. I muted the process of making the beat, but you'll hear the final result very soon. Now for the final reveal. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.